And when you shift that inner safety to be aligned with your self-belief, something really remarkable happens. You stop grasping for validation. You stop contorting yourself into versions that don't fit you. You stop apologizing for your needs or your direction, and you begin to move through life with a quiet steadiness. Welcome to Intuition Unlocked, the podcast empowering empathic women who feel misunderstood, overwhelmed, or disconnected from their intuition, begin to trust their sensitivities, find inner clarity, and show up with embodied, unstoppable confidence in their daily lives. I am your host, Olivia Ashley, an empath and intuitive, and I'm so happy you're here. Welcome back to Intuition Unlocked. I am truly so happy you're here, choosing this moment for yourself, choosing to reconnect, and choosing to remember who you are beneath all the noise and history that life has placed on you. Because today's topic is something I know many of us are quietly wrestling with. It's around the belief in yourself, not in a surface, feel-good, motivational way, but in the deep, cellular, intuitive way that can actually change your life. Because for so many of us, even if we feel confident and in control, we can still have limited and limiting self-belief. Because for so many of us, self-belief is something that wanes, is something that is not always there and strong. And it's something I've noticed in my own self and friends recently that has affected our day-to-day, our ability to show up, how we work, how we act, what we do, what we focus on. And self-belief is something I think we overlook. We don't always talk about it or recognize it. And I want to talk about it because our guides were really clear that cultivating the belief in yourself is really important right now. And that means understanding what your relationship is with self-belief. And it's not something that just fades necessarily. It's more that it's shaped or wounded, or it's been diminished by years of being misunderstood, judged, or placed in roles that never matched who you truly were. And maybe like me recently, you've noticed that you have old versions of yourself that you slip back into, especially around certain people or environments. And suddenly the confident, grounded, embodied woman that you are begins to feel small again, quiet again. You second guess more. And it's like your past is still deciding who you get to be, even though you are a completely different version of yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We will explore why this happens, what it can feel like in real time, and how these old wounds silently shape the choices we make, the risks we take, and the dreams we allow ourselves to pursue. And more importantly, we will walk through how to begin rebuilding a true grounded belief in yourself, the kind that will reconnect you to your intuition, will help protect your energy, and step more fully into the life you have and the one you want to live. So by the end of this episode, you'll feel more clarity around where your self-belief got dimmed, how to distinguish your truth from old stories, and what it actually looks like to trust yourself again. So take a breath with me and settle in wherever you are, and let's dive into this topic. So if you're like most of us, you have places inside of you where your light may be dimmed, and you may not even be noticing that's happening. It's often the places where you're feeling too much, or where you were told directly or subtly that your voice, your needs, knowing, spark, wildness, desires, yourself were inconvenient or wrong. And even though you're an adult now, even though you've probably healed, grown, stretched, changed, and reclaimed so much of your truth, there are still environments, relationships, and moments that can pull you right back into that older version of yourself. And it often happens unconsciously and without your awareness, but you feel it deeply. And I want to share a personal example because I think it will help you feel both less alone, but also clarify how this can happen and when that self-belief can wane. Recently, I've been really noticing how much my belief in myself drops and is affected when I'm around my family. Not because they're bad people or because anyone is intentionally trying to harm me, but because the structures that existed when I was younger, the energetic hierarchies, the roles we all played, where we all stood and felt, the judgments that were cast, are still there to a degree. Even though I've changed and they've changed, even though I feel like a completely different woman than the version of me that they hold in their minds or that they see, in my family, I will always still be that outcast. I was the rebel, the messy one, the one who caused problems or did crazy things, and the one who didn't follow the rules or the path that they thought I should. And I was adamant and strong-headed against them. And at a certain point, I became very okay with that. I found myself, it pushed me to become who I am today. And I'm grateful actually for that experience because I learned so much. And yet, even though I know who I am now, and I've moved through those dynamics and healed many of those layers, I can still feel myself shrinking around them almost instantly, no matter how much work ahead of time I do or how much I prioritize myself when I'm around them and my needs. It's like I'm 15 again. It's like all the work I've done suddenly becomes invisible. And I'm back in the version of me who was misunderstood, unseen, mislabeled, and heavily judged and really outcast from their group. I'm a part of it now and I have my own space and role and I have good relationships with everyone, but it still amazingly affects me. And that's what really hit me recently was those old perceptions are still running my life in some ways. They're quiet and they're subtle, they're even in the background, but they're influencing how bold I let myself be, how big I let myself dream, and how confidently I can stand in my choices and clearly follow my own intuition and trust it. And maybe this is something that's happening to you too. Maybe not directly through your family, but through some other relationship or dynamic or aspect in your life that is triggering this wounding, this old structure, old belief system that is overthrowing the belief system and the belief system in yourself and who you are. And that's causing constraints or blocks or issues to some degree. Because we all have these places in our life where we dim ourselves, whether we want to or not, unfortunately. We dim ourselves to feel protected, to stay safe, to avoid the old wounding or not attract judgment, criticism, feel like an outcast, or to avoid being too much or too loud or too out there and wild, and to not step outside the role someone assigned to you years ago. And this you might not even realize because I didn't to some degree. I knew that those roles were there, but it was only recently when a friend helped me really reflect that it clicked. And I think this is coming up for some of you as well because it feels really important to talk about. So why does this happen? Why do we start to question our self-belief and allow others and dynamics and old programming or wounding to come up and affect us? Well, it's because humans learn who they are through relationships. It's through the nervous system, through mirroring, through what your environment reflected back to you. So if you were praised for being quiet, obedient, helpful, or agreeable, your nervous system learned that those qualities kept you loved and safe, and thus you continued them. And if you were labeled as dramatic, sensitive, rebellious, emotional, too much or difficult, then your nervous system learned to shrink and keep those aspects more at bay and quiet. And so that's how your belief in yourself got shaped around the parts of you that were accepted and the parts of you that weren't. And what psychology has found, which I'm paraphrasing here, is that your brain stores these old relational patterns as truth, quote unquote truth, even when the truth has changed. Even when that truth is no longer a true truth, your brain has stored it as such, meaning that you can grow, you can do work and heal, you can evolve and become a completely different, wiser, stronger, clearer version of yourself. And yet, when you're around the people or the dynamics that shaped those early beliefs, your brain often defaults back to the old role. Not because it's who you are now, but because that was once the safest way to exist and what your body knows. So your intuition starts to quiet, you shrink, Your confidence softens, your voice might shake, your energy dims, and you question yourself. You question who you are, not because you are weak, but because your nervous system and your body and your brain are trying to protect you. It goes into full drive protection mode of, oh, I remember this scenario or this relationship dynamic or this experience and how that felt. I better step back into those ways and those programmings and how I showed up that let me feel more safe and protected around those experiences that were hard or where I was judged or belittled, whatever it was. And it affects you. Whether or not you realize it, you shift. There is a shift. And understanding this and doing something about this really matters because when you genuinely believe in yourself, not in that inflated ego way, but in a grounded, embodied, I know who I am way, everything changes. And research consistently backs this up by showing that self-belief directly increases resilience, it strengthens decision-making, it improves well-being, and dramatically can expand a person's capacity to pursue their goals and handle setbacks. And spiritually, intuitively, there's something even deeper happening. Because when you believe in yourself, you create a clear channel between you and your intuition. And that intuition is the bridge to your heart, to your soul, to your essence, to your knowing, to the connection to something greater, which allows you to really be on mission, be on purpose, live your life, express yourself, and be who you are and want to be in this life. Because your intuition doesn't have to fight through old stories. It doesn't have to yell over fear or bypass someone else's perception of you. It doesn't even have to battle your past. Your intuition is here in this moment. It can speak clearly because you've cultivated the self-belief and the trust within yourself to hear it. And not only to hear it, but to act on it. And when that happens, your life expands. And yet it starts with that self-belief, that trust, that confidence. And so we have to understand how our beliefs get shaped, how that confidence within ourselves comes online, and if there are woundings there, so that we can help ourselves have this path more open, have this clarity around what is actually under the surface, because it helps you be where you are. It helps synchronicities increase, your inner and outer world realigns, and that self-belief is not just confidence, it's not ego or bravado, it becomes safety, an inner safety to be who you actually are, and it allows those old relational programmings to be reset, to show yourself that actually, I feel safe when I believe in myself. I feel safe when I have confidence in my word and my actions and my choices and who I am and my expression, not when I shift to please somebody else or abide by someone else's rules or belief systems. That's how we all grew up. That's what was shown to us to be safe. Be in your lane, be independent, but don't be too much. Don't step too much out of the lines, like keep up with the Joneses, all those things. But in reality, we are a diverse set of humans with so many different backgrounds and soul essences and missions and purpose and interests. And there's so much dynamicness to each of us. It hurts me. I can feel the pain of all of that being quieted due to our societal, our relational, and our cultural structures. And so those aspects are what I want to help you lift the lid on, to say, I can still be a part of this world. I can still be kind and helpful and thoughtful and productive, but I can do so and lead my life in a way that feels true to me. I can believe in myself even when no one else does, because in my heart of hearts, that is a truth. And when you shift that inner safety to be aligned with your self-belief, something really cool happens. Something really remarkable happens. You stop grasping for validation. You stop contorting yourself into versions that don't fit you. You stop apologizing for your needs or your direction. And you begin to move through life with a quiet steadiness, a grounded power that does not need to announce itself. It simply exists. And when you're faced with those situations that trigger those aspects of you, that old wounding still, you notice, you welcome, You get curious and say, wow, there's still stuff there to look at. And I can find acceptance in that. Sometimes it's not even about doing anything with it. It's going, oh, that's still there and I'm still working from that place. Let me take a little bit of time to recenter, to come back to myself, to set a boundary, take a break, and reshift back into that self-belief and my why and who I've become, and start there. And I want to build on that even more and give you a few more tangible, actionable things you can do to help you build belief in yourself, because that's where we can weave the learning, the undoing, and the real world practice to build that self-belief and that muscle. The first one is notice your areas of wounding. Like I said, start by observing with gentleness the places where and when your energy shifts. When do you feel yourself get small? Where in your body do you feel that happen? Does your chest tighten or your voice soften or your intuition suddenly goes quiet and you feel confused? Notice the when and where, because these moments often hold the roots of our old conditioning. And when you can name them, you can also begin to loosen their grip or at least accept them, because you're not necessarily trying to fix anything here. You are giving witness to it. And what we've learned is when you bear witness to it, it gets attention, the energy flows, and things shift. So just notice what comes up that still needs acknowledgement and where it is within yourself. The second piece is identifying what is yours versus what is inherited. This part is a little bit uncomfortable, but incredibly freeing. You can do this by asking yourself, is this belief actually mine? Is this fear actually mine? Is this hesitation actually mine? Or is it a story someone else gave me? Is it a projection I absorbed? Is it an identity someone assigned to me before they knew who I truly was or I knew who I truly was? Let your intuition be a compass here, because it will help you feel the difference between what is authentic and what is old conditioning. And when you start to separate the two, you can open space for your own truth to come forward and understand what is actually yours and what is actually someone else's. And then you can let that go. The third piece is stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand. And this is done not out of defiance or closing yourself off, but out of protection. Your path is sacred, your evolution is nuanced, and your intuition is deeply personal. How you show up, how you express, what you believe, all those things are yours and should be welcomed. So you don't owe any lengthy explanations to people who are not available, capable, or willing to understand your journey. And there's a quiet dignity in simply choosing to not over-explain. My favorite thing my friend says these days is, no is a complete sentence. We don't have to explain any more than we want. So not every version of you is meant for every person. So start to cultivate a filter and understanding of where and when does this feel really good to share, and where and when does it feel better to just be in yourself, keep it to yourself, and share it with people who will see you, who will actually understand and support you. And that brings me to number 4, which is surround yourself with people who see you clearly. When you have a few people in your life who can reflect back your potential and your truth and your authenticity and your greatness, who can see you for who you are rather than who you once were, it can nourish you in ways that you might not even know at this point, because their belief is not going to replace yours or push up against it. It's going to actually strengthen the foundation that you're building in your self-belief. It will help your nervous system learn that you can be seen and be safe, that you can expand and still be held and loved, that you can move through new things and fail or win or try again or pivot. And those people will applaud you through it all and help you through it all. And this is so important because human beings thrive with accurate mirrors. Remember, our relationships are mirrors to ourselves, to our subconscious, to our programming, to our nervous system. So choose who are your mirrors wisely. Number 5 is let your intuition guide you. It's not going to force, it will invite, and it's never going to push you into places that are not in alignment with yourself. So ask for signs, ask for direction, ask for the support you need, not because you're unsure of yourself, Remember, we're building self-belief here, trust in yourself, but because you're co-creating your life with something bigger than you and you need input, you need reflection. So let your intuition be that and let it help you distinguish between your fear and your truth, between where you contract and where you expand, and between staying small and stepping into the life that you know you want or have already, and really be present and open for it. Next is set boundaries that protect your becoming. Boundaries are not walls, they're gardens. They're the structures that protect what you're growing. And when you limit access to the people, spaces, and conversations that reactivate those old versions of you, you give your present day self room to breathe, room to reorient, and nourish the structures that are supportive of your self-belief. So this might look like taking space, saying less, redirecting conversations, or choosing silence where you once defended yourself. I also see energetic clearing and cleansing of both your body and your space being quite pivotal in this time to really help fortify and support you. Because you don't need to justify your growth to anyone, but it might take some tending to make sure that you feel supported, just like we tend to our garden. It can flourish and grow on its own in a lot of ways, but we need to caretake it, to give it what it needs, to give it the right properties and nourishment and tending so it can flourish. You can do that with yourself. And the last one is to practice small acts of self-belief daily. Belief is built in tiny moments, not big gestures or overhauls. So every time you honor a need, every time you follow a nudge, every time you choose rest instead of pushing or truth instead of pleasing, you're slowly teaching your nervous system that I can trust myself. I will show up for myself. I am becoming someone I believe in. And these small choices accumulate. They become evidence, and evidence becomes inner safety, and inner safety becomes self-belief. So to close this out together, remember that you are not who they think you are. You are not the story someone else wrote about you. You are not the roles you played before you knew better. And you are not the wounded versions of yourself that once learned to survive by shrinking or adjusting or blocking off parts of yourself. You are the woman who is learning to expand again. You are the woman who has walked through her own fire and come out with clarity. And you are the woman who is learning day by day to trust the wisdom rising from within. So take a breath once again with me and place your hand on your heart if you can. And remember that you are capable of holding your own truth. You are capable of choosing your own path. And you are capable of becoming someone you believe in. The world and I need the you who is not dimmed by old wounds. The you who isn't shaped by old narratives. The you who knows deep down that you are made for a life that feels aligned, honest, grounded, intuitive, and fully your own. So thank you so much for being here, for listening, and for doing this inner work with me. And now go unlock something new inside of you today and build that self-belief, because it's going to bring so much fruit to you. And reach out. I'd love to hear if you have anything you want to share or anything that's come up. I would be so delighted to hear from you. And until next time, if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe to the show and leave a rating if you feel called to do so. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk again soon. Thank you for joining me on Intuition Unlocked. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of insight, guidance, or intuitive inspiration. To dive deeper into our community and get access to exclusive content, head to my website at www.olivia-ashley.com and subscribe to my newsletter. You can also connect with me on Instagram at wildlyolivia for daily inspiration and updates. Remember, your intuition is your superpower. Trust it, nurture it, and let it guide you. Until next time, I'm Olivia Ashley, and I can't wait to connect with you again.